By the year 2020, the sun will become dimmer and remain dim for the next 20 to 50 years. This is what recent astrophysical reports state. This is on russgeorge.net. Global photosynthesis emergency as the sun forecast to dim for 20 plus years. The physicists' warning of the global cooling effect, the solar grand minimum, will have seemed to be utterly unconcerned about the resulting loss of sun's energy with regard to powering plant life, that is, photosynthesis. Plant life on the blue planet represents nearly 1,000 billion tons of CO2 every year. It manages 1,000 billion tons of CO2 every year, carbon dioxide that is, while all of human emissions are less than 20 billion tons per year. The predicted 5 to 10% decline in photosynthesis will result in up to 5 times more CO2 impact than human emissions. Every 11 years, there is a low point in solar activity, and for the past several of these cycles, there is a troubling trend. That trend predicts another periodic solar cycle through the rarest event called a grand minimum. They happen only every few centuries. Only every few centuries. Experts tracking this disturbing trend now forecast the sun is expected to enter a grand minimum and dramatically dim perhaps as soon as 2020. These grand minimum periods of solar dimming last for 50 years. The last grand minimum event, a disruption of the sun 11-year cycle of variable sunspot activity, happened in the mid-17th century, and it's been named the Maunder minimum and prevailed between the years 1645 and 1715. Sunspot activity was high in 2014, but has been dipping ever since, and the sun moves towards the low end of its 11-year cycle, known as the normal solar minimum. More worrying is a pattern of ever-decreasing sunspots over recent solar cycles resembles patterns from the past that preceded grand minimum events. This similarity suggests that another grand minimum event may be fast approaching. While a curiosity for astronomers, this could spell disaster for plant life. Photosynthesis by plant life on land and especially in the oceans are the principal means that nature uses to regulate our climate. Plants directly breathe in the greenhouse gas CO2, that is carbon dioxide, and using the power they get from sunlight, convert that CO2 into more plant life. That plant life is what feeds all of life on this blue planet, and less sunlight is going to be a base of the food chain protein, the problem. But more importantly, with regard to our climate, plants, especially those in oceans, control our climate. They are not only consume the CO2 that are the principal source of microscopic aerosol chemicals that form the heat of every raindrop and every cloud. You already know these aerosol chemicals well. When you smell the gas or a flower, the grass or the flower of the forest, you're smelling plant aerosols. Every sailor knows that the smell of the ocean will have changed dramatically for hundreds of miles around when one sails near an ocean pasture that is in bloom. Now, this recent team of scientists have estimated how intense such a solar dimming event might be by analyzing close to 20 years of data recording radiation output from stars that follow cycles similar to that of our sun. Solar radiation output typically drops during a normal solar minimum, such as we are now in, though only 5% or less, and not enough to disrupt planet on Earth. However, sunlight during a grand minimum plummets to an additional 7+%, the researchers wrote in the study, and as a result, air temperatures on Earth's surface are expected to cool by as much as several tenths of a degree Fahrenheit Not a great amount of global cooling, the Buffins advised, but what about the 10% diminished photosynthesis on that topic? They did not comment on that. Oceans make the majority of the world's oxygen. The oceans. Most of us didn't know that, but that's the way it is. Let's see what they say here. The major paper in the journal Nature 2017 reported on a stunning observed 2% decline in the ocean oxygen in just 50 years. They went on to state that it will plummet to a 7% loss before the end of this century. That report, which was a massive synthesis of ocean science, showed the 2% decline in the amount of dissolved oxygen in all of the world's oceans between 1960 and 2010, that 50-year period. The loss, however, is worse than this global average in some oceans. The largest overall volume of oxygen was lost in the Pacific Ocean, but as a percentage, the decline greatest in the Arctic Ocean. Remarkable, while climate change, aka global warming, has long been touted as predicting such a decline in ocean oxygen due to ocean warming, the report shows that a mere 15% of the decline is due to the warming effects that reduce the capacity of ocean water to hold oxygen. There is something far more fundamentally powerful that's causing the oceans to lose their life-sustaining oxygen. Indeed, collapse of oxygen production is the culprit. As much as it has been the fashion of terrestrial scientists to report that the lungs of the Earth are its terrestrial rainforests, which are said to make half of the oxygen we breathe, the fact is that the oceans produce the vast majority of our oxygen. 8 out of every 10 breaths you take come from ocean plant life and photosynthesis, and numerous scientific papers have revealed that ocean photosynthesis is down by at least 40% in the past 50 years. That's astonishing. All of that lost photosynthesis was producing prodigious amounts of ocean oxygen that is now clearly seen to be missing. And with the sun dimming, things are not going to get worse, are going to get worse very quickly. I'm sorry I'm making some mistakes, but the letters on this article are so tiny, it's just unbelievable. I'm sorry. Now, in the conclusion, ocean phytoplankton evolved to not only produce more plankton and oxygen, but also to create and sustain its environment that it needs to survive. Ocean pasture plankton, as the principal source of cloud nucleating particles, keep this blue planet in the Goldilocks zone of our solar system. The Earth is just a wee bit too far into the hot zone of our sun, and the phytoplankton clouds have evolved the means to provide us with cooling shade so that we are neither too hot nor too cold, but just right. The new solar dimming report's findings will help scientists create more accurate climate model simulations to improve their understanding of the complex interplay between the solar activity and the climate on Earth. This recent solar dimming finding were published December 27, 2017 in the Astrophysical journal Letters. I'll leave a link below for you for this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.